do things that you're going to regret later on. And that could also come from what's outside of you, not only yourself, but what's outside of you, the people around you. You know, it's not about, I am going to express myself impulsively because of all this intense emotion. I need to get it out and then I'm going to hurt somebody. No. It's about finding a sense of calm, a state of calm, a place of calm, a place of groundedness, being grounded, of being stable, of being at peace, and then acting from that place. Feel what you need to feel. Don't need to try to ground yourself to be, I gotta stay focused. No. Don't give in to those paradigms of the stress, the pressure, the work at it, phrase mentality. I mean, that teacher, she is a very small example of somebody who was teaching spiritual narcolepsy. You co-create your reality. Now, I'm going to hand it off to other spiritual teachers to fill in that knowledge and wisdom because I don't have those credentials. But, nothing that she was teaching in terms of the work that we were doing and how she portrayed and presented herself and taught the material, none of that was acknowledging the sacred feminine. It was just not spiritual. I don't want you to say, oh, of course it's not because it's a lit class. Don't assume that I say spiritual and I mean a certain thing. Maybe I'm meaning healthy. Maybe healthy is what I'm trying to say. What I did was not healthy. It's time to have the self-respect and push your will and do not give in. Say, no, made up my mind, I'm not going to do this. And it may be hard. It may be very hard. Because you feel pressure and the responsibility to do it. You feel like, I need to do this because it's my job. I need to do this because this teacher assigned it. You are going to hurt yourself. And I was being really mean to myself. Really mean to myself. And I'm not going to be mean to myself like that for somebody else. I shouldn't have to. To me, finding a place to surrender and going through the process of doing it, doing the assignment, actually doing it and submitting it that night, that was not the right thing to do. The right thing to do was just to say, okay, I'm looking at this assignment. It's not quick and easy. I'm not going to do this. And I don't, I have to be honest, I don't care about a grade. It's just a grade. It's just a letter. It's just, 1,000 times more important that I take care of myself and I am in a place where I can do the work and I can go through this process. 1,000 times more important. And that's the age that we're moving into. A point is a point. A grade is a grade. It only means so much. That pales, that falls in comparison to spirituality, mental and emotional well-being, all this kind of things. Just falls by the wayside. Really does fall by the wayside. And that's what I regret. I wish I pushed myself more to not do it. I wish I pushed myself more to do what was right for me and not for somebody else. I'm really seeing how when I do things that are not authentic to me, I end up regretting them. South Node and Scorpio being overpowered and just giving in to that whole, power system because this person is more powerful than you. The North Node is in Taurus and it says, be present, be, here and now, take care of yourself, be true to your values, be, find a sense of love and peace and all those kind of things is what I was feeling. Certainly was not love and peace, and certainly was not the North Node in the Sun Taurus. I don't even know what it was. It wasn't really any North Node placement. If it was, it would not be spiritual. Mel Robbins, whose work is about spirit, it's about getting things done, about the willingness to getting things done. I'm pretty sure she comes at it from a place of understanding and brings spirituality into it. And somehow I'm really into the kind of content that she produces. I mean, spirituality and life lessons kind of intertwine. But it was so heavy and so intense that the masculine, I'm going to get this done, not healthy. That particular date and time, not the date and time for that. I mean, the sun and moon are in Scorpio. That's the time to go inside, reflect, all those kinds. That energy. With Mercury retrograde. Oh, Mercury's going retrograde. Don't do this. Don't start this. You know what? Maybe Mercury is retrograde, and I'm kind of feeling like I should wait on starting this project. I think I want to wait. I don't know if this is the right time. You know inside of yourself that this may not be the right time. Maybe it's a better time to try new things because you're more sort of self-aware during that time. And if you end up regretting it, then, well, okay. Don't limit yourself because Mercury is going retrograde. But I'm going to flip. If there is another misunderstanding of an order that I want to get in, I get the wrong order during Mercury retrograde. I am going to flip. if it happens when Mercury is out of retrograde, then it will be forgiven. Then it will be understandable. But if it happens during Mercury retrograde, and it doesn't happen when Mercury is not in retrograde, it's going to be the last straw. Because that is just fueling that whole, box of information. That whole, the whole media and what it's saying for Mercury in retrograde. Oh, you shouldn't do this. Oh, you shouldn't do this. And this is the things that are going to happen. There's going to be miscommunications, misunderstandings. And when you hear that, it's not the transit itself. It's during Mercury retrograde when something happens that checks off one of those negative boxes. And it is a miscommunication, or something. If something happens like that under Mercury retrograde, it makes me mad because the information about Mercury retrograde has been so just fabricated. And I feel like I could listen to an astrologer who could say, oh, not the best time for this, or not the best time for that. But it has been so colored by the media. But I don't see how what you're saying is any different. Say something completely different than I would ever thought that you would say. Guess what? Say, you know what? Time to start this thing. Maybe you're going to not feel like doing this. Instead of, don't do this during this time. See the difference? Feel the difference in that? Feel the difference in energy? One's positive, one's high frequency, the other isn't. Don't do this. Don't do that. That's dictatorial. That's not empowering. But it's an invitation to go inside. And maybe you're going to feel like going inside and reflecting, and maybe not feel like launching off into this. Well, then that's different. Hope I'm not saying something that's not true about Mercury retrograde, but you know what? I mean, some astrologer can say something that's, factually true about it. But, oh, it's not the best time for, like if an astrologer says, oh, don't sign contracts, don't do this, don't do that. You are, perpetuating that whole narrative. You're not off the train. You're on the train of all those people who talk all this stuff about Mercury retrograde. Guess what? No. I'm sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of hearing about how terrible it is. Time to change that story. And I'm sick of hearing how great and how significant the eclipse is. Two events happening side by side. Both are controversial. April 20th and 21st. Mark your calendars for two astrological and controversial events. The second obviously being more controversial, but they're both being controversial. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of how people talk so negatively about it. Even Deborah Silverman. Like, Even if somebody were to say, even though Mercury is retrograde, negative, I don't know if I want to hear anything negative about it anymore. Because that's so dominant. That's too big of a narrative now. It's time to redo this, reevaluate that. Okay, well, but then also say, guess what? Live your life. It's okay to start this new thing. Oh, but then I want to believe that, but then I'm off watching this video, and then I'm off, reading this thing where it's saying something different. Don't do this, don't do that. It's almost like if somebody were to shout in a crowd against a whole bunch of people who were shouting out loud, and they were more powerful and they were more dominant, and that one little voice in that crowd is not enough to stand a chance against everybody. How it's going to be, what's going to happen, is something in your life is going to go completely morbid. Nothing can ever stand a chance against the morbid doings that your life has to offer. The prosciutto addicts of Italy, the ants in the kitchen, the Byzantine Empire blue failure, all of that stupidity, all of those people who cannot stand a chance against the demigod Maui, all those people who just have a fate to kill all the bad things they don't think. First impressions can be awfully misunderstood. For example, the first impression of me would be that you don't want to be with me because I boss you around all the time. Yet, if you give it a chance, you might find that it's actually working out well. Now, no one can kill anyone. Killing is wrong. Killing is bad. And I just want to throw that out there. Killing is bad. And I could go on. That's the part of a TED Talk speech that I did, which is coming out on my channel. Because I'm putting archive videos out during Mercury retrograde season. That'll come out on my channel. I'll give an introduction, I'll give an analysis to a couple of the videos. They're going to come out because it is a good, favorable time to look back on the old photo albums, and look back on all these kinds of things like that, and review things. I didn't say that you can't start new things. So, there had better be something happening that checks one of those boxes that doesn't happen during Mercury retrograde. That's a negative. That feeds into that whole paradigm that we've created. The whole catastrophe, the whole narrative is fabricated in Mercury retrograde that does not happen when Mercury is in retrograde. Oh, it's a bump. Things happen in life all the time. Well, I really like to strongly believe that, but guess what? It's during Mercury retrograde. And these people said, oh, these things can happen during Mercury retrograde. I don't want to believe that. I don't believe in that. I don't want to believe that. That's not my truth. That's just so negative. That's just, so, like the planets are doing things to us. And that whole story is so negative. It's so disempowering. It's not looking at astrology from the right lens, from the right perspective. Well, I shouldn't say right. From a healthier perspective and outlook. And so yeah, I will be pretty angry the next time something happens under Mercury retrograde. Because of the whole narrative has just created this whole doom transit for 3 weeks. So, I'm guilty. I probably have perpetuated that pattern because I probably said, oh, it's not a good time to start new things, things can happen, said all the typical traditional stuff. Which is, you know, seep into pop culture at this point in this negative way. I'm probably guilty of that. I'll own up for what I say, but I'm probably guilty. Probably guilty. I'm pretty sure I'm guilty. How the astrologers and what they say about it any different from anybody else. I mean, just look at the just all that. I guess if it happens again, then I'm led to believe, oh, this only happens during this time, or this happens during this time. That's a real positive message. That things are going to work out well with communication. That's real positive. You can't do this. Well, they're not policing people. There's no police that's saying, oh, don't buy this, don't do this during Mercury retrograde. So what? Doesn't matter. By all means, agree to get married, launch a new business, buy that big product, sign a new contract. What the heck? Do it. Maybe that's what some of you will be doing. To prove it doesn't matter. Who knows? Anyway, I don't know. Back to my point. The assignment that I had to do that I was so stressed about was about analyzing poems. That's maybe what we'll do. I sort of want to prove, okay, we can do this another time, and maybe, we'll look at those poems, and I'll reacquaint those poems, just like I reacquainted myself with a teacher that I almost hated. And I'm willing to relook at that. Maybe I'm willing to relook at those poems that I was stressed about. Like, I didn't appreciate what I was reading because of the stress and the pressure and the intensity. All that was just, you expect me to enjoy it, analyze it, with work and rushing to get this assignment in. I didn't think so. You have to create the space and the time in order to do that. It's going to be really difficult to do that. You come home and you have an assignment that you have to do that night. You have all this work to do, all this other stuff to do, work, myriad of responsibility.
15 minutes.
Okay. So you're going to be looking at those poems, and we're going to be analyzing them together. Maybe together, I don't know. Redoing that assignment to clean up that karmic debt. I think that'll be fun. There's a pretty likely chance I won't even get around to it. But anyway, so back to what we were trying to focus on. How come I'm not motivated to do this? That's also a telltale sign. So anyway, looking at ethos, pathos, and logos, which is what we need to look at here. Now, you have something else that's attached to your sheet. It says logos, pathos, and ethos. I'm going to read these three definitions, and then I want you to read through the article and then find where you find these things. Logos is and these are all forms of persuasion, by the way. Logos is coming from the Greek word for word or reason. It is an appeal to reason and logic. What evidence and reasoning are used to construct a sound argument? How is the argument consistent and logical? Look for facts and statistics. That's logos. Then pathos. This comes from the word for feeling. It is an appeal to the emotions, beliefs, and values of the reader. How is the reader made to be receptive to the message? What appeals are made to one's values and interests? How is the reader engaged emotionally? Look for vivid language and personal stories that engage the reader. A heart transforms the reader to the moment. Ethos comes from the word for character. It is the appeal for the writer's creativity. How is one's credibility, and trustworthiness enhanced? What is this person's expertise, credentials, qualifications, background, personal experience? What kind of language and tone are used to present oneself as responsible, thoughtful, fair? Looking at this article that we have in front of us, what can we find? Well, how to persuade an audience. How to persuade an audience. Like, how am I going to do this? I'm not finding the substance in this. I'm trying to find all the ways that I can do this while killing two birds with one stone. I'm making excuses, but guess what? I didn't assign this. I didn't assign this. So let's just break down all three of these in the article. For instance. If I can find a pencil, where can I find a pencil? There has to be a pencil here. Oh, there it is. Here's okay. Let's look at pathos. So let me just find examples of pathos. We have to start out. Try to make this interesting and, not just sit and work. I don't want that to be the only way of doing it. Sit and work. Okay. So, I'm just going to say that the bottom paragraph, which is, after crossing a vast mud flat, I bobbed downstream and then dipped and fell in muck on the way back to my clothes. It wasn't a pleasant experience, yet the swim had to be done. The lake soon reflooded the site after a wet winter. This is pathos. And it can be multiple things. It can be pathos and ethos logos. It can be a whole mix of things. let me see what the instructions are. So, explain how the appeal of logos is used in the article. Then directly quote, I did that. Signal phrase, place an in-text citation, explain how the illustration. So let's just look at see how I can make sense of it. Picking an exact date for when the San Juan's mud plug travels the final 20 plus miles to Glen Canyon is in the realm of a wager for Las Vegas bookies. It will certainly someday arrive when depends entirely on snow and rainfall in the Colorado River watershed and how much water is used. When it could clog the deep and narrow channel a few dozen miles uplake from the dam and however slow the flow of the Colorado, making management of the river difficult. This could disrupt the water delivery to millions of people in cities and towns as well as farmers and tribal communities downstream. So I could say, I'm just going to write down a couple of little ideas here. Logos. Let me just find the page. So I know that let me just find it here. Logos page 1, 2, 3. Logos page 3. Showing the negative effects of what can happen when the water lake not being drained. What does he say here? This was persuasive but could use more detail. Looks at humanitarian